We'll jump right into it. I want to start with you, Christophe, to talk a little bit about Navya, which has made a lot of noise here in France and around the world just the last couple of years. Can you tell us a little bit briefly about what Navya is for those who don't know, and where you are right now in terms of your development?
So Navya is a French company which has been created 3 years ago, and just 2 days, the second birthday of the date where we launched our first autonomous shuttle, which is one of the first vehicle in the world, which is level 5. And so we have been developing this new vehicle for 2 years, and we are trying to create other vehicles in the very next future to be able to match all the different challenges that autonomous vehicles are bringing to the market right now.
And you're based both in Paris and in...
So Navya is based, the headquarters of Navya are based in Lyon, and all the R&D team is based in Paris, just beside here, because it's 200 meters, I think, that we're from this place. And we have now a team of 60 different engineers which are designing and creating all the software which is dedicated to the autonomous vehicle.
And I started with you just to give some context, because last November you raised a fairly large round of funding, and two of the investors in that round were your neighbors here.
Well, so I'm very happy to have two of my shareholders, which are just beside me.
Maybe not you two personally, but your companies. So Arnaud, we'll just jump to you for Keolis. Explain a little bit about what you do, and also then the interest in a company like Navya and how you're working with them at the moment.
Because we think autonomous shuttle, autonomous car, autonomous vehicles is the future. We are operating all kind of modes in big, small, and very big cities, and we think we need to learn more about the usage, about the technology, and so it's a good way to learn this new technology with and to be a pioneer in this new modes, and a good way to learn it to be a partner with this kind of company.
And Vanessa, to you, the same question really, your connection with Navya, but also just tell me a little bit about what Valeo does and what your connection is in this ecosystem.
Okay, so Valeo is an automotive company, and we are providing equipments, all type of equipments for cars, mostly. Within Valeo, I am leading autonomous vehicles research and innovation. And why did Valeo invest in Navya? In fact, for AVs, we truly think that there will be two models. First one is an expansion of the ownership model, an incremental approach based on car makers increasing the level of functionality of the cars. And on the other hand, the new mobility players that will provide mobility as a service, and robot taxi or driverless shuttles are key technologies for this expansion. That's why we invested in Navya.
And so then from your perspective, where you're sitting in this conversation, Navya is one of many directions you're looking in a sense to see, is it going to be flying taxis? Is it going to be autonomous cars or trucks, or what that's going to look like?
Yeah, but in fact, Navya is developing one of the leaders worldwide on driverless shuttles, so providing potentially end-to-end application of mobility, so it can pick you somewhere and deliver you in another place. They have a core technology and I would say a large place on the market. So we truly think in the in the future of Navya.
And then you all, Keolis, did a demonstration recently, I believe, in the UK with. It was either a Navya shuttle or it was designed by Navya to...
Yeah, we make some, not only demonstrations, some new services, which is quite different. We launched together new services in Lyon, in the center in downtown in Lyon with 2 shuttles to provide service from the and connection from the tram to the south of the Confluence quarter. So it's a real service for people to go to from the tram stop to their company, which is a real service, and it's the best way to learn the new usage, not only a demo, but a service. And we also launched together a new service in La Défense with the 3 shuttles every day of the week.
And then, Christophe, just to touch a bit more directly on the subject of the day, artificial intelligence, in terms of your development of the shuttles, can you just describe a little bit how core that is to the system that you're building?
Effectively, AI has a real contribution for what is the main target and the main topics that we have to solve. That's to say that we need to make the cars, the vehicle more intelligent and more in adaptation with all the different situations we are facing in usual condition of traffic. That's to say that we need to help the vehicle to much more easily understand what is the environment, the localization of the vehicle. And for that, of course, some techniques like machine learning and deep learning are really important, because we're, especially for what we call categorization of objects. That's to say, in order to be able to choose between what is this kind of things which is moving right in the front of the shuttle, and to adapt the situations. That's to say, okay, we are able to say, oh, it's a car or it's a bicycle, and after that we can adapt the function of the vehicle. So it's really important to be able to learn to the vehicle all the different things it needs to know. To ensure the maximum of safety, because of course the main target that we have is to make our vehicle very safe, and to be able to run on the different streets that you are facing in Paris today, for example. And we are not too far from there, so we need obviously to enhance all the different way we are running this vehicle. And of course, AI is one of the most important part of the things that we are putting in our software. At the same time, we are using very powerful sensors and much more powerful each day. That's to say, including LiDARs, cameras, and whatever may be radars, and the things which is really different and really important is to be able to make all these different things work together at the same time, because really often we are making some demonstration. We can see some demonstration of autonomous vehicle, but the problem is only demonstration. And what is really important is to be faced to the real condition of the traffic. That's to say, as Arnaud was saying, the experiment in La Défense, the experiments in Lyon, the experiments that we are conducting in the University of Michigan, in Las Vegas. It's really important because Navya has collected a full set of data coming from real experiments. We have now transported more than 200,000 different people, real people. That's to say that autonomous vehicle is not in the future. We are really close to a real life. So.
And we were having just a slight debate before we came up on stage about then, in terms of next steps, because this is the big thing everyone wants to know. When is this all going to happen? When can we see this? But in terms of what is needs to happen next for this, Vanessa, you mentioned one of the big questions was validation, in terms of just following what Christophe is saying. Basically, how sure are we that these things work on a daily basis? Is that a big part then of what you're researching and in testing?
Yes, sure. We are heavily working on that, and it's one of the big challenges of autonomous vehicles. It's to validate the functions and gather data, record data, train the system to be even smarter, to manage more complex situations, to be sure, because AI is very often machine learning, deep learning. So how can you explain what will the neural network do, or how it will behave in new circumstances, new context. It hasn't been trained before. So we have a huge, huge effort on data recording, data mining, validation of the system. And I think it's a global effort on which the full industry is working, being new mobility players like Google, Uber, etc., car makers, tier ones like Valeo, or new players like Navya.
Well, this raises, for me, another interesting question, because we were also talking a bit about this, but there's so many people now, both legacy companies that have been into the transportation business, new entrants, startups, incumbent tech companies that are all touching this space now, and there seems to be some cooperation, but obviously it's a competition. I mean, this is a business that people want to win at. So is there a sense that there's enough cooperation to really, that everyone's working together enough to figure out these issues, or is it too fractured to share all that data?
Okay, so it's in between. So there are alliances for sure. For instance, we are partnering, we are merging efforts to go faster. But in parallel, I compare the new self-driving cars or autonomous vehicles as a gold rush. Because it happens as well in California.
Oh, yes.
And so it's a very tough competition, and it's really a race. Everybody is racing, so there is alliances to go faster, but in the same time, people are racing and competing each other, and there is no global consensus that are appearing. But that would be key, for instance, if there would be a kind of certification process on which everybody, including governments, would agree. I think that could ease the system to come massively on the market.
Yeah. And Arnaud, then, because you're on the other side, your company has been operating transportation systems for decades now. Is there a sense of the role that these are going to play and how quickly they're going to affect the larger transportation picture, or is it still too hard to understand the rate at which this is going to impact us?
I really think that the good question is when. But what we are sure is that it will happen. We will have autonomous car, autonomous shuttle, autonomous bus, autonomous vehicles. We don't know right now the size, the good size of the vehicle, but we are quite sure that we need to have this kind of technology shared with the vehicle. We think that the vehicle will be shared, must be autonomous and electrical, because it's a kind of mobility as a service, and we think that it's key. It's a kind of a graal also. That's the reason why there is such a race, because we will have a kind of convergence between all these competitors. And it's so big benefits for the city and for the citizens to not have anymore the private car in the city. And we think that it's a good way to work. It's interesting for us to operate this kind of new mobilities because the social benefit is so high that it's interesting to believe in and to accelerate the movement.
And then in terms of the model this is all going to take, obviously you don't want to be in the business of operating these shuttles. You leave that to other folks. But do we have enough of a sense at this point about are we going to move to a world of private ownerships or a mix of systems? And is that starting to emerge, or is that still something that people are still asking in terms of what that future exactly is going to look like?
I think that for the moment, of course, a lot of different new usage of the cars are now appearing. Of course, the sense of owning a car is not so evident for any people now, especially for young people. Lot of different people in Navya, for example, have no driving license. They do not share the idea to have a vehicle. So we are deeply convinced that in the future we need to bring to the big cities new system of mobility based on vehicles that should be shared, of course autonomous, because it's our own stuff. It's really important to be able to bring this technology and to make it available for everybody, and to give to this vehicle a new way of giving some services to the citizens in big cities, because of course the amount of population in big cities is climbing very rapidly, 60% in 2030 in the big cities, 70% of the total population in 2050. These big cities are faced to a very big problem with congestion, with pollution, with noise, with safety, and of course autonomous vehicles should be one part of the solution that we can bring that. But at the same time we will need to if in the future we'll need to interoperate between different vehicles. For the moment, the competition is so tough that, of course, every company wants to promote its own solution. So for the moment, the cooperation is not so high, but you have a lot of different new technology which are now emerging. You have all heard about V2V applications. That's in the future, of course, all the different vehicles will be able to communicate with the others, and this is already a standard. And after that, the depth of the cooperation will has to be seen in the future. For the moment, it's a little bit too early to see that.
Arnaud, from your perspective, are these seen then as complementary technologies to the systems, particularly the public transportation systems we have in place, or is this something 30 years down the road then Uber is going to be the king of the road, and you know, buses and all these other things will be.
We think that we need to have good algorithm about fleet management, because we have two issues. The first issue is an issue we have today is to manage the fleet. The issue we will have tomorrow with autonomous shuttle is to know where we need to bring the vehicle in the morning, because now when you have a driver, the driver comes from his home. Tomorrow we will need also to know where you need to put the vehicle in the beginning of the day. So you will need a lot of artificial intelligence about to manage all the fleet, and it's key for us. We have also some partner. We have a partner which is VIA, an Israeli-American company, which operate in New York City also. We try to learn a lot about how to manage a big fleet we will have tomorrow.
But, you know, thinking then down the road, if we get to this world where we validated the technology, we have everything on the road is autonomous, ideally it would seem like then you want some centralized system that's gathering, monitoring all that data, rationalizing the running of public transportation, maybe pools of autonomous cars or individual cars, so that we know that we get the benefits, the real benefits of, you know, traffic flow reduction, energy saving, security. I mean, is it too early to start to think about that fully networked, super intelligent system, or are people somewhere hatching a scheme for putting that in place?
The big push can come from cities. So big cities around the world are pushing strongly to improve, I would say, the ecology and the congestion and everything. So a big push and a big shift could come I would say within 10 years, I don't know exactly, but in a global way, I think it can be much, much, much longer. There are two usages that will push that. The first one is downtown city, like here, I would say. Second option is in far suburbs, where you have old people that have difficulties to move and that want to go to the supermarket or to the doctors, to wherever they want to go. So there is a real usage need there. And I think that in between, there will be still a long time for other mobility systems without, I would say, or with an incremental approach in coordination with the rest.
We have time for a brief comment. Did you have something you want to add very briefly?
No, of course, the main target of the transportation operator is to manage whatever may be the system of transportation. At that time, for example, in Lyon, Keolis is running at the same time buses, railways, subways, autonomous shuttles. And of course, the main target for the transportation operators, the city public services, is to be able to manage and to regulate all the different traffic. So in that way, of course, we need to bring to this operator the capability to interact with the vehicle. The other thing is to enable the vehicle to communicate between them, and it's not the same kind of question. For example, if a vehicle is braking in face of my vehicle, of course, if they can brake at the same time, you would decrease the risk, you decrease the average length which is necessary to stop the vehicle. So it's much more on a safety basis that is really interesting to make this vehicle to interoperate. But as it will take really a long time to achieve this goal, we in Navya we are deeply convinced that we need to bring all the technology without knowing nothing about the road on which we are, the streets on which we are, because the situation is the same in the US, in Paris, for example, in Michigan, you have a lot of different things along the highways with V2V application. In Paris, it's not the case, and so it's an adaptation for all the conditions.
Thank you all very much for being up here, and thank you all for getting back from lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you.